The council chamber was filled with panic. Counselor Vexra stood before the massive viewing screen, her 4 arms trembling as she watched another star system fall to the enemy. The red dots on the map kept growing, spreading like a disease across the outer territories. Each red dot meant billions of lives lost, entire worlds consumed by the Zathor swarm. "How many ships do we have left?" General Krell asked. His voice was steady, but his green skin had turned pale with fear. "Less than 200 functional vessels, General," replied the tactical officer. "The Zathor destroyed our main fleet at the Battle of Hexamar. What we have now are mostly cargo ships with weapons attached." Vexra closed her large eyes and felt her heart sink. The Galactic Council had existed for over 10,000 years. They had built a civilization based on peace, trade, and scientific discovery. War was something they read about in ancient texts, not something they actually fought. Their military was small, designed only to stop pirates and handle minor disputes, but the Zathor were not minor. They were a nightmare made real. The insectoid creatures moved through space in massive swarms, their ships bred from living tissue and powered by biological cores. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply consumed everything in their path, turning entire planets into breeding grounds for more soldiers. "We need to evacuate the core worlds," Krell said. "If we start now, we might save a few billion civilians." "And go where?" Vexra asked. "The Zathor move faster than our civilian transports. They will hunt us down sector by sector until nothing remains." The room fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. The council members looked at each other with despair in their eyes. Some were already crying, their bodies shaking with grief for worlds already lost. A young officer named Telek stepped forward. He was Heptari, a species known for their analytical minds and careful planning. "There is one option we have not considered," he said quietly. General Krell turned to him. "Speak, the Forbidden Zones. Specifically, Sector 7G. The reaction was immediate. Several council members gasped. Others made gestures of fear with their appendages. Vexra felt a chill run through her body. "You cannot be serious," she said. "That sector is marked as a death zone. No ship that enters ever returns." "Not a death zone," Telex corrected. "A Deathworld zone. There is a difference. The probes we sent there centuries ago did send back data before they were destroyed. One of the planets in that sector has life. Intelligent life." Krell shook his head. "If intelligent life exists in a Class 12 Deathworld environment, then they are probably more dangerous than the Zathor. Why would they help us?" "Because," Telex said, pulling up old files on the screen, "the probes detected electromagnetic signals, radio waves, primitive computer networks, and signs of industrial civilization. These beings have technology, and if they survived on a death world, they must know how to fight." Vexra studied the data. The planet was terrifying to look at. It had crushing gravity, an atmosphere rich with corrosive oxygen, violent weather patterns that could destroy cities, and tectonic activity that constantly reshaped the surface. The dominant species lived in the middle of all this chaos, and somehow thrived. "What do we have to lose?" Telex asked. "We are dying anyway. If there is even a small chance these Deathworlders can help us, we must try." The council voted. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. General Krell ordered the activation of the WEAR, ancient first contact beacon, a device built long ago for peaceful exploration. Now it would be used to send a cry for help across the stars. The message was simple, translated into mathematical language that any technological species should understand. "We are the Galactic Council. We are under attack. Our civilization is dying. If you can hear this message, we need your help. Please respond." The signal was sent toward Sector 7G, toward the third planet of a yellow star, toward a world whose inhabitants called it Earth. On Earth, in the Nevada desert, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was having a boring night shift. He sat in the control room of the Deep Space Communications Array, drinking bad coffee and monitoring the equipment. The massive radio telescopes searched the sky constantly, listening for signals from space. In 30 years of operation, they had found nothing but natural cosmic noise. Jake was reading a book when the computer started beeping. He looked up, annoyed at the interruption. Then he saw the readings on the screen and his book fell from his hands. "No way," he whispered. The signal was strong, pulsing in a clear pattern that could not be natural. It was coming from outside the solar system, from a direction that no human probe had ever reached. Jake's fingers flew across the keyboard, running every analysis program he had. The computer confirmed what his eyes were telling him. This was an artificial signal. Someone out there was trying to communicate. Jake grabbed the phone and called his supervisor. "Sir, you need to get down here right now. We have a verified signal from deep space." "Is this a joke, Morrison?" the supervisor asked. "No joke, sir. This is real. We are not alone." Within an hour, the small facility was filled with people. Scientists, military officers, and government officials all crowded around the computers, watching the data stream in. The signal was complex, filled with information that would take weeks to fully decode, but the translation AI was already working on it, breaking down the mathematical language. When the first rough translation appeared on screen, the room went completely silent. "We are dying. If you can hear this, we need you." Admiral Lisa Hayes stood in the Pentagon's crisis room, reading the report for the third time. She was a veteran of 40 years in the Space Force, a woman who had dedicated her life to preparing humanity for contact with alien life. She had always imagined first contact would be peaceful, maybe even joyful. She had never imagined it would be a distress call. "How reliable is this translation?" she asked. "Very reliable, Admiral," said the chief linguist. "The message uses mathematical concepts to convey meaning. They are definitely asking for help. The data includes coordinates for their location and rough descriptions of the threat they face." Hayes looked at the star maps. The coordinates pointed to a region of space about 800 light-years away. With Earth's newest, faster-than-light drives, they could reach it in about 3 weeks. "What do we know about the threat?" she asked. "Not much from the message alone," replied an intelligence officer. "But they mentioned something called the Zathor Swarm. Based on the urgency in their message and the fact that they contacted a Class 12 death world for help, we can assume they are facing something they cannot handle alone." Hayes made her decision. "Activate the Third Fleet. I want every ship ready to launch within 48 hours. Captain Ryan Blake will lead the task force. This is first contact, people, and it is happening under combat conditions. Make sure our people are ready." In orbit around Earth, Captain Ryan Blake received his orders aboard the UES Valkyrie. The massive warship hung in space like a predator waiting to strike. Its hull was built from advanced alloys that could withstand impacts that would vaporize civilian ships. Its weapon systems included railguns, missile batteries, energy weapons, and nuclear armaments. Blake was a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes. He had fought in 3 wars during humanity's expansion into the solar system. He knew combat intimately. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We have received a distress call from an alien civilization. We are going to answer that call. Prepare for combat operations. This is not a drill. We launch in 36 hours. Commander Amy Foster entered the bridge. She was Blake's tactical officer, a brilliant strategist with a reputation for aggressive action. "What do you think we are getting into?" she asked. Blake looked at the stars through the viewport. "I think we are about to show the galaxy what humans can do when someone asks for our help." "Get the crew ready, Commander. We have a war to fight." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Trimari system, and immediately every alarm in the sector started screaming. On the Council's main monitoring station, the sensor officer stared at his display in disbelief. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures. 27 vessels just appeared on our scanners." General Krell rushed to the console. "What kind of vessels? Are they Zathor?" "No, sir. The energy signatures are completely different. These ships are huge. The largest one is 3 times bigger than our battle cruisers, and their power output is off the scale." Counselor Vex rejoined them, her hearts beating rapidly. "Could these be the Deathworlders we contacted?" "I do not know, but they are moving toward our station. They are hailing us, Krell nodded. Put them on screen. The display flickered and showed the bridge of an alien vessel. And there, sitting in the command chair, was the most terrifying creature Vexra had ever seen. The being was massive, with thick muscles visible even through its uniform. Its skin was a dark tan color, stretched over a frame that looked impossibly dense. But what frightened Vexra most were the eyes. They were forward-facing like a predator's eyes, colored a deep brown that seemed to look right through her. "This is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earth ship Valkyrie," the creature said. Its voice was deep and controlled. "We received your distress call. We are here to help." Vexra tried to speak but found her voice trapped in her throat. General Krell managed to respond. "We are grateful for your arrival, Captain Blake. I am General Krell of the Galactic Council Military Forces." Blake nodded. "General, we need tactical information. What is your current situation?" Krell pulled up the star maps, showing the red zones where the Zathor had taken control. The Zathor swarm has conquered 47 star systems in the past 6 months. Our military forces are nearly destroyed. We have less than 200 operational ships. The Zathor have thousands. On the human ship, Commander Amy Foster leaned close to Blake and whispered something. Blake nodded and turned back to the screen. "General, we will need detailed intelligence on the enemy. I am sending over one of our officers to coordinate with your command. Is your station capable of supporting human environmental requirements?" Krell looked confused. "I do not understand." "What requirements?" "Our species evolved on a high-gravity world with a dense oxygen atmosphere. We need to know if your station can accommodate us." Vexra checked the station specifications quickly. "Our gravity generators can reach 0.9 standard G, and we can increase oxygen content in designated areas. Will that be sufficient?" Blake smiled, and Vexra saw his white teeth. They looked very sharp. "That will work. We will send our liaison officer now." An hour later, Sub-Commander Telix stood in the docking bay, waiting for the human shuttle to arrive. He had volunteered for this duty against the advice of his colleagues. Everyone was terrified of the Deathworlders, but Telix was curious. These beings had traveled across hundreds of light years to help people they had never met. That suggested they were not mindless killers. The shuttle landed with a heavy thud that made the deck plates ring. The door opened and Telix got his first look at a human in person. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison stepped out of the shuttle, carrying a data pad and wearing a friendly smile. He was tall, about 2 meters, with light brown hair and blue eyes. His movements were smooth and confident. "Hello?" Jake said, speaking through a translation device. "I am Jake Morrison. You must be Sub-Commander Telix." Telix made a gesture of greeting with his upper arms. "Welcome to our station, Lieutenant Commander. I will show you to our command center." As they walked through the corridors, Telix noticed something strange. Jake was moving easily in the 0.9 gravity, not struggling at all. For the Council species, 0.9 gravity was nearly the maximum they could handle. For this human, it seemed normal. "Your ships are very impressive," Telix said, making conversation. "We have never seen power outputs like that before." Jake smiled. "Our engineers are pretty good. Would you like to see the Valkyrie sometime?" Captain Blake said he would welcome Council observers. Telix felt both fear and excitement at the idea. "I would be honored." They reached the command center where General Krell and Counselor Vexra were waiting. Jake began downloading the tactical data from Earth's sensors and his expression became serious. "You were not exaggerating," he said quietly. "The Zathor really do have thousands of ships, and they are moving toward your core worlds right now. Can your fleet stop them?" Vexra asked, hope in her voice. Jake looked at the data for another moment, then nodded. "Yes, we can stop them, but I need to brief Captain Blake immediately. General Krell, can I use your communication system?" 20 minutes later, Telix found himself aboard a human shuttle heading toward the UES Valkyrie. General Krell had ordered him to observe the humans and report back. Telix was nervous but determined to do his duty. The shuttle docked with the massive warship and Telix stepped into a world that shocked him to his core. The gravity hit him first. It was crushing, much stronger than the station. His legs nearly buckled, and he had to use his arms to steady himself against a wall. A human crew member noticed his distress. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Do you need medical assistance?" Telix forced himself to stand straight. "No, I will adapt." "What is your gravity setting?" "Standard Earth gravity. 1 full G. Is that too much? We can take you to a low-gravity area if you need it." "No." Telek said, determined not to show weakness. I can manage. The crew member led him through the ship. Telex tried to take in everything he saw. The corridors were wide and tall, built for beings much larger than council species. The walls were thick metal, reinforced in ways that seemed excessive until Telex remembered this was a warship built to survive combat. They passed a training room, and Telex stopped to look inside. Human soldiers were exercising, running on machines while wearing heavy weights on their bodies. Others were lifting massive pieces of metal, using only their arms. The display of raw physical power was terrifying. "This is normal for you?" Telex asked. The crew member laughed. "This is just basic fitness training. Nothing special." They reached the bridge, and Telex met Commander Amy Foster. She was a woman with short dark hair and sharp green eyes. She looked at Telex with an expression that reminded him of a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Welcome aboard, Sub-Commander," she said. "Captain Blake is reviewing the tactical data. He will speak with you shortly. In the meantime, would you like a tour of our ship?" Telex agreed, and for the next hour, Commander Foster showed him the capabilities of a human warship. He saw the railgun batteries that could fire projectiles at incredible speeds. He saw the missile storage bays, filled with weapons that made him sick when he learned they carried nuclear warheads. He saw the fighter launch bays where small combat craft waited to be deployed. "How many crew members do you have?" Telex asked. 800 on the Valkyrie, Foster replied. "Most of our ships carry between 500 and 1,000 crew. And all of them can fight in this gravity? In this oxygen-rich atmosphere?" Foster looked puzzled by the question. "Of course. This is normal for humans. Our planet has higher gravity than most worlds, and our atmosphere has more oxygen. We evolved to handle it." They reached the observation deck, and Telex looked out at the rest of the human fleet. The ships floated in formation, their running lights making them look like a school of predatory fish waiting to attack. "Why did you come?" Telex asked suddenly. "You do not know us. We are not your people. Why risk your lives for strangers?" Foster was quiet for a moment, thinking about her answer. "Because you asked for help." "Because it is the right thing to do." Humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We heard your call, and we could not ignore it. Before Telex could respond, the ship's alarm started blaring. A voice came over the communication system. "Battle stations. All hands to battle stations." Zathor forces detected entering the system. Foster's entire demeanor changed instantly. The friendly officer disappeared, replaced by a cold-eyed warrior. "You need to get to a safe location," she told Telex. "Now." "No," Telex said firmly. "I am a military officer. I will stay on the bridge and observe. General Krell ordered me to report on human combat capabilities. I cannot do that from a shelter." Foster studied him for a moment, then nodded with what might have been respect. "Then strap yourself into that chair and do not get in our way. This is going to get rough." They reached the bridge just as Captain Blake was giving orders. "All ships, this is Blake. Form up in attack formation Delta 7. Carriers to the rear, battleships to the front. Fighters stay in the launch bays until my command. The Zathor want to fight? Let us show them what humans do to bullies." Telex strapped himself into an observer chair and watched as the human crew moved with perfect coordination. Every person knew their job. There was no panic, no fear, just focused determination. On the main screen, the Zathor swarm appeared. Hundreds of organic ships pulsing with biological energy, heading straight toward the Trimari homeworld. They saw the human fleet and changed course to engage, their insectoid minds recognizing new prey. Captain Blake smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The Zathor swarm moved through space like a living wave of death. Hundreds of their bioships pulsed with sickly green light as they accelerated toward the human fleet. Inside each ship, thousands of insectoid warriors prepared to board and consume their prey. On the bridge of the UES Valkyrie, Lieutenant Chris Taylor watched his tactical display with calm focus. He was the ship's weapons officer, a young man with steady hands and a sharp mind. "Enemy formation holding course," he reported. "They are not changing tactics. They are coming straight at us." Captain Blake nodded. "They are used to fighting council ships. They think we will break and run." Commander Amy Foster checked her own displays. "The Zathor are clustering together. They want to overwhelm us with numbers." "That was their first mistake," Blake said quietly. "Chris, target the center of their formation. Prepare railguns for maximum range firing." "Targeting," Chris replied. His fingers moved across the controls. Solution locked. Ready to fire on your command, sir. Sub-Commander Telex watched from his observer seat, his body tense with fear and anticipation. The Zathor were terrifying enemies. He had seen recordings of what they did to Council ships. They swarmed over them, tearing through hulls with their claws and weapons, killing everyone inside. All ships maintain formation, Blake announced to the fleet. Wait for my command. The Zathor came closer. On the view screen, Telex could see the details of their ships now. They looked like massive insects, with segmented bodies covered in armored carapace. Weapons pods grew from their hulls like tumors. They were ugly and wrong, like something from a nightmare. Range in 30 seconds, Chris said. Blake leaned forward in his chair. All railguns prepare to fire. 3-round burst staggered timing. Target the lead ships. Telex did not understand what a railgun was, but he was about to learn. 10 seconds. Chris counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Firing. The UES Valkyrie shuddered as its main railguns fired. Telex could not see the projectiles themselves because they were moving too fast. What he saw was the effect. The lead Zathor ship simply exploded. One moment it was there. The next moment it was a cloud of debris and frozen biological matter. Then the second ship died. Then the third. The railgun projectiles, moving at impossible speeds, hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. All across the human fleet, railguns opened fire. The space between the two fleets filled with death. Zathor ships died by the dozens, ripped apart by tungsten slugs moving at relativistic speeds. They are breaking formation, Foster reported. The Zathor are scattering. Good, Blake said. Chris switched to missile batteries. Let us introduce them to our long-range capabilities. Missiles armed and ready, sir. Fire. Hatches opened along the Valkyrie's hull, and missiles streaked out into space. They were not like the primitive rockets Telex had seen in Council arsenals. These were sophisticated weapons with advanced guidance systems and nuclear warheads. The missiles spread out, each one choosing a target. The Zathor tried to shoot them down, but the missiles were too fast and too smart. They weaved through defensive fire, adjusting their courses with impossible precision. The first missile hit a Zathor cruiser amidships. The nuclear detonation lit up space like a small sun, and when the light faded, there was nothing left but expanding gas and debris. More missiles hit. More Zathor ships died. Telex watched in shock as the human weapons reduced the swarm to scattered survivors in less than 10 minutes. This was not a battle. This was an extermination. Enemy attempting to retreat, Foster reported. Blake shook his head. Negative. They do not get to run away. Chris, order the carriers to launch fighters. I want every Zathor ship in this system destroyed. Aye, sir. Launching fighters now. Far behind the battleships, the human carrier groups opened their launch bays. Small craft began pouring out into space, dozens of them, then hundreds. They formed up into squadrons and accelerated toward the fleeing Zathor. Pilot Officer Danny Price sat in the cockpit of his fighter, feeling the G-forces press him into his seat as his craft accelerated. He led Raptor Squadron, 12 fighters under his command. They were the best pilots in the fleet, and they knew it. Raptor Squadron, this is Raptor Lead. Danny spoke into his communication system. We have multiple targets ahead. Stay in formation and watch your wingmen. Let us make this quick and clean. Roger that, Lead, came the replies from his squadron. The Zathor ships ahead of them were trying to escape, but they were too slow. Danny's fighter was built for speed and maneuverability. It could turn on a dime and accelerate hard enough to crush a normal human into paste. But Danny was not a normal human. He was a fighter pilot, trained from youth to handle extreme forces. Targets acquired, his weapons officer called out. Locking on now. Fire when ready, Danny ordered. His fighter's cannons opened up, sending streams of armor-piercing rounds into a Zathor ship. The enemy vessel's carapace cracked and split. Atmosphere vented from the wounds, and then the ship began to tumble. Around him, the rest of Raptor Squadron was engaging their targets. The space battle turned into a deadly dance as human fighters weaved between the Zathor ships, hitting them from every angle. The enemy tried to fight back, but their weapons were too slow. They could not track the fast-moving human craft. Raptor 3, you have one on your tail, Danny called out. I see it. Lead, watch this. Raptor 3 pulled a maneuver that would have killed most living beings. The fighter flipped end over end, reversing its direction in seconds. The Zathor ship trying to follow could not match the turn. It flew past, and Raptor 3 put 3 missiles into its engines. The Zathor ship exploded. Back on the Valkyrie, Telex was trying to process what he was seeing. The humans were winning. Not just winning, but dominating. The Zathor swarm that had destroyed entire council fleets was being torn apart like paper. "How is this possible?" he asked quietly. Commander Foster heard him and looked over. "Because we come from a world that tried to kill us every day. Earth is not a gentle place. We had to become tough to survive. And we had to become smart to thrive. War is terrible, but humans are very good at it." "The Zathor Queen ship is attempting to escape," Chris reported. "She is heading out system at maximum speed." Blake's expression hardened. "No, the Queen dies here. If she escapes, she will just breed another army. Chris, give me a firing solution for the main cannon." "Sir, the main cannon requires massive power. We will have to divert from shields and secondary weapons." "Do it. Foster, order all other ships to cover us while we charge." "Aye, sir." The Valkyrie's system shifted. Power flowed from across the ship into the main cannon. A directed energy weapon built into the ship's spine. It was humanity's most powerful weapon, capable of cutting through a moon if aimed correctly. Telex watched the power readings climb higher and higher. The numbers on the display were impossible. No ship should be able to generate that much energy without tearing itself apart. "Charging complete," Chris announced. "We have a lock on the Queen ship." Captain Blake stood up from his chair. "For everyone the Zathor have killed. For every world they have destroyed, fire." The main cannon fired. A beam of pure energy lanced across space, crossing the distance to the Queen ship in seconds. It hit the massive vessel dead center, and for a moment the Queen ship's shields tried to absorb the energy. Then the shields failed. The beam cut through the organic armor like it was not there. The Queen ship exploded from the inside out. The detonation was so powerful that it created a brief flash of light visible from the planet below. Silence fell over the Valkyrie's bridge. Then quietly the communication officer spoke. "Sir, we are receiving hails from the remaining Zathor ships. They are requesting terms of surrender." Blake looked at Foster. She shook her head. "No surrender. They showed no mercy to the Council worlds. They get none from us." Blake nodded in agreement. "Inform the fleet. No survivors. Hunt down every Zathor ship in the system and destroy it." Over the next 2 hours, the human fleet systematically eliminated the remaining Zathor forces. Not a single enemy ship escaped. When it was over, the space around the Trimari homeworld was filled with debris and frozen bodies. On the monitoring station, General Krell and Counselor Vexra watched the aftermath in stunned silence. The battle they had expected to lose, the battle that should have ended their civilization, had been won. Not just won, but won decisively. The humans had destroyed a Zathor fleet that outnumbered them 3-1. 4 hours, Vexra whispered. They destroyed the swarm in 4 hours. We fought the Zathor for 6 months and never won a single major battle. Krell was staring at the casualty reports. Human losses: 0 ships destroyed, minimal damage to 3 cruisers, 18 fighters damaged but repairable. Zathor losses: complete annihilation. Every ship destroyed. A communication came in from the Valkyrie. Captain Blake appeared on screen, looking tired but satisfied. "General Krell, the immediate threat has been eliminated. We will begin patrol sweeps of the system to ensure no Zathor remain. I suggest you start recovery operations for any survivors on the orbital stations they attacked." "Captain Blake," Krell said, his voice full of emotion, "you have saved us. The Galactic Council owes humanity a debt we can never repay." Blake smiled slightly. "We did what anyone should do when they hear a cry." 3 weeks after the battle, Admiral Lisa Hayes arrived at the Galactic Council's central station aboard the UES Constitution. The massive diplomatic vessel docked carefully, its human crew aware that every alien eye in the sector was watching them. The Council had invited Earth to formal negotiations, and the station's engineers had worked around the clock to prepare a chamber that could support human environmental needs. Even so, when Admiral Hayes walked into the meeting room, she could see the strain the modifications had caused. The gravity generators hummed loudly, pushed to their absolute limit to create Earth-normal gravity. The atmosphere processors wheezed as they pumped extra oxygen into the air. The temperature controls flickered, struggling to maintain the warmth humans found comfortable. Counselor Vexra stood to greet her, along with representatives from all 12 Council species. They all looked nervous. "Admiral Hayes, welcome," Vexra said through her translation device. We are honored by your presence. Lisa Hayes was a tall woman in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. She wore her dress uniform, the medals on her chest representing 4 decades of military service. "The honor is ours, Counselor," Hayes replied. "Earth is grateful for this opportunity to meet the wider galactic community, even if the circumstances could have been better." They sat down around the conference table, and Hayes noticed that several of the alien representatives were having trouble with the gravity. They were sweating, their breathing labored. She made a mental note to keep the meeting short. General Krell spoke first. "Admiral Hayes, the Galactic Council wishes to formally thank Earth for its assistance in our time of need. Your fleet saved billions of lives. We are in your debt." "Earth did what was right," Hayes said. "When we heard your distress call, we could not ignore it. But I think we need to have a frank discussion about what happens next." Ambassador Kate Sullivan, sitting beside Hayes, opened a data pad. She was Earth's lead diplomat, chosen for her intelligence and her ability to understand different cultures. "Counselor Vexra, our analysis of the Zathor threat suggests this was not an isolated incident. They are expanding aggressively across this region of space. What are your plans for defense?" Vexra's forearms trembled slightly. "We are a peaceful people, Ambassador. We have never built large military forces. Before the Zathor came, we had no enemies. But now you do," Hayes said gently but firmly. "And peace is only possible when you can defend it. The Zathor will come back, and next time they will come in greater numbers. You need to be ready." General Krell looked uncomfortable. "Our species are not warriors like humans. We do not have your strength, your endurance, or your tolerance for violence. How can we possibly build a military that could stand against threats like the Zathor?" Captain Ryan Blake, who had joined the meeting via video link from the Valkyrie, spoke up. "General, you do not have to become like us. You have your own strengths. What you need is training, modern tactics, and the will to defend yourselves." A council member from the Neri species, a small aquatic being in a support tank, spoke in a bubbling voice. "Captain Blake, we watched recordings of your battle with the Zathor. Your weapons are terrifying. Your fighters move in ways that would kill our pilots. Your soldiers can survive in conditions that would crush us. How can we ever match that?" Blake's expression softened. "You do not need to match it. You need to find your own way. Humans are good at war because we had to be. Earth is a dangerous world. We evolved as hunters, and we spent thousands of years fighting each other before we finally learned to work together. But that does not mean war is the only thing we are good at." Commander Paul Henderson, Earth Security Chief, stepped forward. He was a large man with dark skin and a calm demeanor. "If I may, Admiral?" Hayes nodded. "Go ahead, Commander." "Council members, let me tell you about my grandmother," Paul said. She was a small woman, less than 5 feet tall, who lived to be 103 years old. She survived a war, raised 6 children alone, and worked every day until she was 90. She was not strong like a soldier. She could not lift heavy weights or run fast, but she was tough in a different way. She had the strength to keep going when things were hard. That is also a human quality. He looked around the table at the alien faces. "What I am saying is that strength comes in many forms. You do not have to become warriors. You just have to learn how to protect what matters to you." Counselor Vexra seemed moved by his words. "What would you have us do?" Admiral Hayes brought up a holographic display. "Earth proposes the Galactic Defense Initiative. We will establish a joint military command that combines human tactical knowledge with Council resources. We will train your people in modern defense strategies. We will share technology where appropriate, and we will maintain a human fleet presence in this sector to respond to major threats." "What do you want in return?" asked a council member from the Heptari species. His tone was suspicious. "Friendship," Hayes said simply. "Trade, cultural exchange. We are not conquerors. We do not want to rule you. We just want to be part of the galactic community." Ambassador Sullivan added, "Earth has been alone for so long. We always hoped there was other intelligent life out there. Now we know there is, and we want to build relationships based on mutual respect and cooperation." General Krell studied the humans carefully. "You could take what you want. Your military is far superior to anything we have. You could demand tribute, territory, anything. Why ask for only friendship?" Captain Blake answered from his screen. "Because that is not who we are, General. Yes, humans can be violent. Yes, we are good at war, but we are also capable of compassion, loyalty, and sacrifice. We fight to protect, not to conquer, at least not anymore. We learned from our mistakes. Hayes nodded. Humanity's history is not pretty. We fought terrible wars against each other. We nearly destroyed our own planet multiple times. But we learned, we grew. We became better than we were. And now we want to use our strength to help others. The council members looked at each other, silently communicating in ways humans could not see. Finally, Vexra spoke. The council accepts your proposal, Admiral Hayes. We will establish the Galactic Defense Initiative. We will learn from you, and we welcome Earth into the galactic community as friends and allies. The next day, Captain Blake gave a demonstration for the council's military commanders. He brought them aboard the Valkyrie and showed them what human military doctrine looked like. Sub-Commander Telix was there, having been assigned as the official liaison between the Council and human forces. He had spent the past 3 weeks living among humans, learning their ways, and he had developed a deep respect for them. Blake started with the basics. Military strength is not just about weapons. It is about logistics, communication, training, and morale. Let me show you. He took the group to the ship's training deck where Sergeant Kelly Brooks was instructing a squad of Marines. Kelly was a tough woman with short blonde hair and muscles that made the alien observers nervous. But she was also patient and methodical in her teaching. Combat training is constant, Blake explained. Our soldiers train every day even when there is no war. We drill tactics until they become instinct. We practice scenarios until we can respond without thinking. One of the Trimari officers asked, "But your soldiers are so strong. How can our people ever match them?" Kelly overheard and walked over. "Sir, strength is not everything. Watch this." She called over a young Marine named Pete Collins. Pete was small for a human, barely 5'6" and slim. "Pete here is one of my best soldiers. He is not the strongest or the biggest. But he is smart, fast, and he never gives up. Show them, Pete." Pete demonstrated close-quarters combat techniques against a much larger sparring partner. He used speed, leverage, and tactics to overcome his opponent's size advantage. The alien observers were impressed. "See?" Kelly said. "It is not about being the strongest. It is about using what you have effectively." Blake took them next to the command center, where Lieutenant Chris Taylor was working on tactical simulations. Chris showed them how human commanders planned battles, using computer models to predict enemy movements and test different strategies. "We do not just fight. We think," Chris explained. "Every battle is studied. Every tactic is analyzed. We learn from every engagement, good or bad." Commander Amy Foster joined them and added, "And we adapt. Human military doctrine is always evolving. We never assume we have the perfect answer. We keep improving." The tour continued to the medical bay, where Dr. Sarah Brooks was treating injured crew members from the recent battle. Sarah was a kind woman with gentle hands and a warm smile. "Medicine is also part of military strength," she explained. "We keep our people healthy and get them back into action quickly. But more than that, we care for our wounded. We never leave anyone behind." Telix noticed that the aliens were starting to look less afraid and more thoughtful. They were beginning to understand that human strength was not just physical. It was mental, emotional, and cultural. In the engineering section, Chief Greg Palmer showed them the ship's systems. Greg was a cheerful man who loved his job, and his enthusiasm was infectious. "This ship is tough because we build things to last," he said. "Human." 3 months had passed since the Zathor defeat, and the galaxy was changing in ways no one had imagined possible. The newly built Unity Station hung in orbit around the Council's central world, a massive structure that represented the merger of human and alien engineering. Half of the station was designed for standard Council environments, with low gravity and thin atmospheres. The other half was built to Earth specifications, with crushing gravity and oxygen-rich air. In between was a transition zone where both species could interact comfortably. Today was an important day. The Galactic Council was holding a formal ceremony to make Earth an official member and to establish the Galactic Defense Initiative. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood in the ceremonial hall, wearing her dress uniform. Beside her were the other senior human officers: Captain Ryan Blake, Commander Amy Foster, Ambassador Kate Sullivan, and Commander Paul Henderson. Behind them stood representatives from every human ship in the fleet. On the other side of the hall stood the Council representatives, dressed in their finest ceremonial garments. Counselor Vexra was at the front, her forearms adorned with official ribbons and symbols of rank. The ceremony began with traditional council music, strange harmonies that sounded alien to human ears but were strangely beautiful. Then Vexra spoke. her words translated into multiple languages simultaneously. 3 months ago, we faced extinction. The Zathor swarm was destroying our civilization, and we could not stop them. In our darkest hour, we reached out to the unknown, hoping someone would hear our cry for help. Earth answered that cry. She turned to Admiral Hayes. You came across the stars to help people you did not know, to fight enemies you had never met, and you asked for nothing in return except friendship. Today, the Galactic Council formally welcomes Earth as our newest member and our closest ally. Hayes stepped forward and accepted the ceremonial crystal that symbolized Council membership. It was a beautiful object, carved from a rare blue stone found only on the Council's oldest colony world. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I accept this honor, Hayes said. We are proud to join the galactic community. We look forward to learning from you, sharing with you, and building a better future together. The hall erupted in applause from both humans and aliens. It was a strange sound, with the aliens using various appendages to make clicking, whistling, and tapping noises, while the humans clapped their hands together. After the ceremony, the real work began. Captain Ryan Blake was officially appointed as the first commander of the Galactic Defense Initiative's Joint Task Force. His office was in the military section of Unity Station, a room that had been carefully designed to accommodate both human and alien visitors. Blake sat at his desk, reviewing the training schedules for the next year. Commander Amy Foster entered, carrying a datapad full of reports. The first group of Council cadets arrived this morning, she said. 200 volunteers from 8 different species. They are all nervous but eager to learn. Blake looked up. How are they handling the physical requirements? Better than expected. We modified the training program to match their capabilities. They will never be able to do what human Marines can do. But they are learning tactics, discipline, and teamwork. That is what really matters. There was a knock on the door and Subcommander Telix entered. Over the past 3 months, he had become Blake's right-hand officer, serving as a bridge between human and Council forces. He wore a modified uniform that combined elements of both military traditions. Captain Blake, the morning briefing is ready, Telix said. We have some interesting intelligence reports. They moved to the briefing room where several other officers were waiting. Lieutenant Chris Taylor was already at the main display, pulling up tactical maps. Good morning, everyone, Blake said. What do we have? Chris brought up a star chart showing the region beyond Council space. Sir, our long-range scouts have detected something unusual. There are refugee ships fleeing from the galactic core. Multiple species we have never seen before, all running from something. The Zathor? Foster asked. No, ma'am. According to the refugees, the Zathor were running from something too. They call it the Void Fleet, a force of unknown origin that appeared in the core systems about a year ago and started consuming everything in its path. Blake frowned. So the Zathor were not the main threat. They were refugees turned raiders. It appears so, sir. The Void Fleet is much larger and much more dangerous than the Zathor swarm. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Blake spoke. We need more information. Chris, coordinate with our scout ships. I want to know everything about this Void Fleet. Where they came from, what they want, how they fight. Yes, sir. Blake turned to Telix. Sub-Commander, inform the Council. They need to know what is coming. And tell them we will need to accelerate the training program. We have less time than we thought. In the training section of Unity Station, Sergeant Kelly Brooks was working with her first class of alien cadets. They were a mixed group, tall Trimari with their 4 arms, small Neri in their support tanks, analytical Heptari with their insect-like features, and others from species Kelly was still learning to identify. All right, listen up, Kelly announced. Today we are going to learn about defensive formations. This is basic tactical training that every soldier needs to know. One of the Trimari cadets raised a tentative hand. Her name was Siri, and she was one of the best students. Sergeant Brooks, our people are not strong like humans. How can we hold defensive positions? Kelly smiled. Siri, defense is not about strength. It is about positioning, communication, and supporting your teammates. Let me show you. She set up a simulation where the cadets had to defend a position against an enemy attack. The first attempt was chaotic. The cadets scattered, tried to fight individually, and were quickly defeated. Stop, Kelly called. What went wrong? We were not strong enough, said one of the Heptari cadets. No, Kelly corrected. You are not working together, watch. She ran the simulation again, but this time she talked them through it. Siri, you have 4 arms. You can operate 2 weapons at once. Take the high ground and provide covering fire. Jex, she pointed at a Heptari cadet. Your species has excellent reflexes. You watch the flanks and call out enemy movements. Noro, she addressed a Neri and a support tank. Your people are good at technical systems. You handle the communications and coordinate everyone. The simulation ran again. This time, working together and using their individual strengths, the cadets held the position successfully. When the simulation ended, they all looked surprised and pleased. See? Kelly said. You do not need to be human. You just need to be a team. Over the following weeks, the training program showed remarkable success. The alien cadets learned human tactics and adapted them to their own capabilities. The Trimari became excellent marksmen with their multiple arms. The Heptari excelled at reconnaissance and intelligence work. The Neri proved to be natural communications specialists. Meanwhile, on the planet below Unity Station, Dr. Sarah Brooks was working on a different kind of project. She was leading a team of human and alien medical experts to develop new treatments that worked across species. The problem is that we are all so different, explained one of the Trimari doctors. A medicine that works for humans might be poison to us. Sarah nodded. True, but there are universal principles. Pain management, infection control, trauma care. We can find common ground if we work together. They spent long hours in the laboratory sharing knowledge and techniques. The human doctors learned about alien biology, and the alien doctors learned about Earth medical technology. Slowly, a new field of xenomedicine began to emerge. In the diplomatic section of the station, Ambassador Kate Sullivan was working on trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. The council species were fascinated by human art, music, and literature. In return, humans were discovering the wonders of alien culture. Earth has so much to offer, said a council trade representative. Your manufacturing capacity, your resource extraction techniques, your agricultural methods. These could benefit the entire council, Kate smiled. And your people have scientific knowledge that is centuries ahead of us in some fields. Your faster-than-light technology is far superior to ours. Your energy generation systems are more efficient. We can learn so much from each other. 6 weeks into the program, Captain Blake held a graduation ceremony for the first class of Council military cadets. They had completed basic training and were ready to join the Joint Defense Force. Blake stood before them, looking at the assembled aliens in their new uniforms. They stood straighter now, moved with more confidence, and had the look of real soldiers in their eyes. You have worked hard, Blake told them. You have learned quickly and adapted well. Today, you become the first members of a new kind of military force, one that combines human strength with council wisdom, human tactics with council technology. You are proof that we are stronger together than we ever were apart. He pinned rank insignia on each graduate. When he reached Siri, the Trimari cadet, she spoke quietly. Thank you, Captain Blake. You and your people have given us something we lost when the Zathor came. You have given us hope, Blake smiled. You had the hope all along, Siri. We just helped you find it again. The emergency meeting was called at midnight station time. Captain Ryan Blake rushed to the command center, still buttoning his uniform jacket. Around him, other officers were arriving, all looking worried and confused. Admiral Lisa Hayes was already there, her face grim as she studied the data on the main screen. Commander Amy Foster stood beside her, running calculations on a tactical pad. Lieutenant Chris Taylor was coordinating communications with the fleet. What happened? Blake asked as he entered. Hayes gestured to the screen. Captain Nicole Chen's scout ship returned from the Galactic Core an hour ago. What she found changes everything. The screen displayed sensor recordings from the scout mission. Blake watched as dark, angular ships moved through space in perfect formation. There were thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, all heading toward Council space. The Void Fleet, Hayes said. It is not a legend or an exaggeration. It is real and it is coming. Sub-Commander Telix entered with Counselor Vexra and General Krell. The Council leaders looked terrified when they saw the recordings. How long do we have? Krell asked, his voice shaking. Captain Nicole Chen appeared on the communication screen. She looked exhausted from her long reconnaissance mission. Based on their current speed and trajectory, they will reach the outer council systems in approximately 6 weeks. Maybe less if they accelerate. What do we know about them? Blake asked. Combat capabilities, weapons, tactics? Nicole shook her head. Not much. They avoided engaging us when we were detected. But I can tell you this, their ships are massive. Some of them are larger than anything we have ever built, and there are so many of them. Even with all of human and council forces combined, we are outnumbered at least 10 to 1. The room fell silent. Everyone was doing the math in their heads, and the numbers did not look good. Counselor Vexra spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Then we are doomed. We cannot win against such odds. No, Blake said firmly. Everyone turned to look at him. We are not doomed. We are challenged. There is a difference. Admiral Hayes nodded. Blake is right. We have 6 weeks to prepare. That is 6 weeks more than we had when the Zathor attacked. And this time we are not divided. We are united. What do you propose? Krell asked. Blake moved to the tactical display and began sketching out a plan. First, we need intelligence. Real detailed intelligence. We need to know what these ships can do, how they fight, what their weaknesses are. Nicole, can your scouts get closer? Nicole thought for a moment. It is risky, but yes. With cloaking technology and careful positioning, we could observe them without being detected. Do it. Take 3 scout ships and gather as much data as possible. But do not engage. If you are discovered, run. Information is more valuable than heroism right now. Blake turned to General Krell. General, we need to mobilize every council ship that can fight. I know your fleet is small, but we need every vessel we can get. What about our cadets? Asked Commander Foster. The ones we have been training. They have only had a few months of instruction. Blake was quiet for a moment, then said, We graduate them early. They are not fully trained, but they know the basics. And we need every soldier we can field. Sergeant Brooks, can you accelerate the training program? Kelly Brooks, who had joined the meeting, nodded grimly. Yes, sir. I will push them hard. But some of them are not ready for real combat. I know, Blake said, but we do not have a choice. War does not wait for perfect preparation. Over the next week, Unity Station became a hive of frantic activity. New ships arrived every day from Earth and from Council worlds. The construction bays worked around the clock to repair damaged vessels and upgrade others with improved weapons. In the training section, Kelly Brooks pushed her alien cadets harder than ever before. They drilled from dawn until midnight, learning tactics, weapons handling, and combat procedures. Some collapsed from exhaustion, some quit, but most stayed, driven by the knowledge that their worlds were depending on them. Siri, the Trimari cadet who had been one of the best students, found herself promoted to squad leader. She stood before a group of nervous recruits trying to project confidence she did not really feel. I know you are scared, she told them. I am scared too. But fear is not the enemy. Giving up is the enemy. The humans have taught us that courage is not about not being afraid. It is about doing what needs to be done even when you are afraid. In the engineering bays, Chief Greg Palmer worked with alien engineers to retrofit council ships with human weapon systems. It was difficult work, trying to integrate technologies that had developed independently for thousands of years. This is not going to be pretty, Greg told his team, but it does not have to be pretty. It just has to work. When those Void Fleet ships arrive, I want every council vessel to have at least some ability to defend itself. Dr. Sarah Brooks prepared the medical facilities for mass casualties. She trained alien doctors in human trauma medicine and learned alien healing techniques in return. She knew that when the battle came, her skills would be tested like never before. We will save everyone we can, she told her medical team. Human or alien, soldier or civilian, it does not matter. Life is life, and we protect it. 2 weeks into the preparations, pilot Danny Price returned from a scout mission with new information. He burst into the command center looking pale and shaken. Captain Blake, you need to see this, he said, uploading his sensor data to the main screen. The images showed the Void Fleet in detail for the first time. The ships were indeed massive, but more than that, they were strange. They seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them appear as dark holes in space. Their hulls had no visible weapons, no engines, no windows. They were smooth and featureless. They attacked a council colony world while I was observing, Danny said. Watch what happens. The recording showed Void Fleet ships approaching the planet. They did not fire weapons. Instead, they simply moved close to the surface and the planet began to change. The oceans turned black. The atmosphere darkened. The lights of cities went out one by one. What are they doing? Foster asked in horror. Lieutenant Chris Taylor ran the sensor data through analysis programs. They are draining the planet. Energy, matter, everything. They are converting the planet into fuel for themselves. Telex made a sound of distress. That is worse than the Zathor. At least the Zathor killed quickly. This is slow death, watching your world die around you. Blake studied the images carefully. There has to be a weakness. Nothing is invincible. Chris, analyze everything we have. Look for patterns, vulnerabilities, anything we can use. Ambassador Kate Sullivan entered the command center with urgent news. Captain Blake, I just received word from Earth. They are sending reinforcements. The first and second fleets are on their way, but they will not arrive for at least 4 weeks. That will be too late, Krell said. The Void Fleet will be here in 2 weeks now. Blake looked at the tactical display, calculating options. Then we make our stand with what we have. We choose our battlefield carefully and we make them pay for every inch of space they take. Admiral Hayes, what are our current numbers? Hayes pulled up the fleet roster. We have 78 human warships operational, plus 340 council vessels of various types. Total combined forces, 418 ships against an estimated 5,000 enemy vessels. We have faced worse odds, Blake said, though even he knew that was not entirely true. Over the next few days, Blake and his command staff worked on a battle plan. They studied the Void Fleet's movements, looking for patterns. They identified the strongest defensive positions. They prepared fallback points and evacuation routes. Late one night, Blake found himself alone in the observation deck staring out at the stars. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Admiral Hayes approaching. Cannot sleep? She asked. Too much to think about, Blake admitted. Admiral, we are sending people into battle who have barely finished training. We are facing an enemy we do not understand with forces that are clearly insufficient. Am I leading them to their deaths? Hayes stood beside him, looking out at the stars. Maybe, but you are also giving them a chance. If we do nothing, the Void Fleet will sweep through this region and destroy everything. At least this way we fight, we resist. We show them that this galaxy is not theirs for the taking. And if we lose, then we lose fighting, not cowering. The Council species will remember that humans stood with them, and Earth will remember why we came out here in the first place, to help others, to explore, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Blake nodded slowly. When I was younger, I used to think war was simple. You find the enemy and you destroy them. But it is not simple at all, is it? No, Hayes agreed. War is the most complex and terrible thing humans do. But sometimes it is also the most necessary. Those people down there, she gestured to the planet below, they have children, dreams, hopes for the future. They deserve a chance to live those lives. We are here to give them that chance. The next morning, Blake held a final briefing for all senior officers, both human and alien. The command center was crowded with captains, commanders, and specialists from dozens of different ships. In 1 week, we will face the Void Fleet at the Barrier Nebula, Blake announced. We have chosen this location because the nebula will